Hi everyone, happy Cancer season. This is the season of my own birthday, so I'm excited to start it. And if you're a fellow Cancer like me, please go ahead and leave a comment. I'd love to know who's watching and who's a Cancer, and I don't know, it's just a little bit of fun, right? So today I'm going to continue on my Decks for Court series, in which I identify decks that match the court cards for me. So today, since it is the start of Cancer season, I am going to be working through the Cups court suit. So I'm going to leave a link in the description box below to my other two videos. So far I've done the Pentacles suit, and then I've also done the Swords suit. So you're welcome to join in on this conversation. If you'd like to make a video, or if you want to make a post on Instagram sharing your decks that represent the court cards for you, feel free to do so, and just label it #Decks for Courts. So I'll go ahead and get started with the Page of Cups. Today we're going to be using this book by Mary K. Greer, and it's called Understanding the Tarot Court. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of what she's written about the Page of Cups, and we're really going to be focusing on this advice part. So the way this is set up is, if you pull the Page of Cups, this is the advice that someone could give you in regards to embracing that energy. So I'm going to let this description be the rationale for the choices that I make in regards to what decks I pick. So Mary K. Greer says, "Be open to love, say yes to an invitation, be romantic, poetic, and or playful. Pay attention to a sensitive, loving child. Listen to what your dreams and intuition have to tell you. Enjoy an artistic project, even if you feel you are unskilled." And I think this part where it says pay attention to a sensitive, loving child, I think you could also take that one step further and say you be the patient and sensitive child. I also have written down a couple more things. So I wrote be a poster child for wonder. That's a major word. I feel like the Page of Cups is always in a state of awe and in a state of wonder, as if they're seeing the world for the first time. And then let yourself be lost in your own world. So they do tend to be a little bit spacey. So in regards to the deck that I picked to match the Page of Cups, I picked a deck that's still very new to me, but I think that it embodies this perfectly. And it's going to be Under the Oak Tarot. Now, I have this one, a silent flip through of this deck posted on my channel, so I'll leave that in the link below. So the basic premise of this deck is that it follows a young girl who's visually impaired as she enters into this magical world called Anima. And I think that if that's not a perfect description for a Page of Cups deck, I can't think of anything else. So she's a child that is deeply sensitive. She sees these creatures and these new individuals in this fantasy world around her with awe and with wonder. So to her, the world is worth exploring because of that sense of wonder. I truly do feel like the Page of Cups, out of any of the court cards, is going to be the one that would be most willing to lose themselves into a fantasy world, a new world, to be able to see all the creatures almost as equals, and see that all of these little creatures, such as, for example, these little mice that feature throughout, have something to teach them. If you look at how the cards are depicted, it's obvious that the child that's going through this world is experiencing these emotions very deeply. While in a normal Two of Swords, you have like more of a calm sense of water in the background, this one you can see all of the little lightning strikes through this water. You can feel her tapping into that water, which is appropriate because I feel like the Page of Cups is like a fuse for that power because she is so deeply intuitive. But you have back here that this tree. So you have the tree that is like facing like the winds. You can tell that, it's not just a Two of Swords, like we're sitting at a stalemate. This Two of Swords is like agony because we're stuck in the middle and we're trying to make these decisions and we're trying to listen to everything around us and be in tune with both our emotions and also our mental space. So in the way that the cards are deeply depicted, there is a sense of profoundness here that I think that you would have to be a child to recognize. And what I mean by that in like a realistic capacity, right, is like the first time that you ever go to a new city, or perhaps you see the beach for the first time, the way that you experience it the first time is different from the way that you experience it every other time. I think that children have a real sense of gratitude and a real sense of appreciation for the beauty around them, and that embodies the Page of Cups. It's like seeing everything around you for the first time every time. So under the oak will be my Page of Cups deck. Next will be the Knight of Cups. So we can see what the Understanding the Tarot Court book has to say about this. So we're looking right here in the advice section. So it says, if you receive this card, act from your heart, invite someone out for a romantic evening of pleasure and amorousness. Use your imagination and creative, artistic, or musical skills. Go after your highest ideals. Take your lover candy or flowers. Offer a kind and sympathetic ear to one who needs it. Express your feelings. Be gallant. And I also have written here, chase connections. So I feel like the Knight of Cups is someone that always is chasing connections. I've mentioned in my previous video, which I'll link down below, the Swords Court cards, that I oftentimes think about the page as being someone that is brainstorming, right? Which is why I described the page deck as one that's like very internal. And then I think of the Knight as like the drafting part of the writing process. So this individual, because we are in the Suit of Cups, they're chasing those emotional connections. They are drafting all of these words and all of these phrases, trying to get the attention of those around them, trying to seek that connection. And it's just that constant need for emotional validation from others. And I think also chasing their highest ideals. So there's a lot of action in this. You know, they're not someone that's just going to sit down. It is going to be someone that's chasing after those emotional things. So I knew before I even started writing down the decks that I had chosen that this was going to be the one that I picked for my Knight of Cups. And this is the Prophet Oracle. So this deck features quotes from a prophet. I'm sorry, not a prophet, a poet. And they're just little quotes that are taken out of his larger body of work. And so I really like this for the Knight of Cups. One, because of the color scheme, everything feels so flowy and so moody, which when you think of the Knight of Cups, you think of like the most like traditional knight, you know, one that is all chivalrous and romantic. And so these colors remind me a lot of the knight that is going on these vast missions, that holds himself to the highest ideals, that chases after the ideals such as compassion and justice. I also really enjoy the phrases here. I feel like because this is representative of a poet's body of work, it represents the spirit of the Knight of Cups well. So this is a great example. To you, the earth yields her fruit. I feel like this is something that could be said to a lover, like a Knight of Cups would, that the earth yields her fruit. So to you, you can go ahead and chase the beauty around you, and you can sit in the garden, because ultimately when it comes down to it, you're worthy of the earth's fruit. I could feel someone saying that as a compliment to a lover or someone that they're chasing. That being said, some of the phrases are so short that you really do have to get into the guidebook to understand where it's coming from. And so I think there's also that element as well of the fact that while we have these beautiful sentiments, such as in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning. That's a beautiful phrase, right? It has gorgeous diction. It seems like it's something that came out of a poetry book, because it is. But what does that exactly mean? So I think the Knight of Cups is someone that's difficult to pin down, because he is always chasing his ideals and always chasing the next adventure, the next like sense of romance. So sometimes he'll write you the love letter and it'll be beautiful. Sorry guys, these are all landscape. It'll be beautiful. And then other times you'll get the letter and you'll be like, what exactly does this mean? You know? So there's that sense of flightiness to him. So now it's time to look at the Queen of Cups. So this is what the book has to say if you receive that card. So we're gonna look right here. Follow your intuition, promote a caring, supportive, and affirming environment. Let the images flow. Treasure your dreams, offer your heart to those you love, daydream or meditate, be sympathetic. So these are two very different things. I feel like the Queen of Cups has two different essences to her. There's one that's willing to get lost in the intuitive world, almost like the High Priestess sort of energy, but the other kind is like the caring counselor. So I had to pick two different decks to represent her. So in regards to the one that is willing to get carried away, to hold herself to the flow, to let her intuition truly speak, and to be able to handle the onslaught of intuitive images, I've picked the Tarot of the Dream Enchantress. So I think that the Queen of Cups is unique in her ability to be able to handle many messages that come at once. So the Queen of Cups, because she is inward focused, because she is someone that meditates often, someone that trusts her own intuition and trusts her own gut, and is willing to see things beyond the surface and make connections between things that are seemingly unrelated. I think that this deck is a perfect match. So this deck is one that depicts a dream landscape, and what can be more of an intuitive experience than going through a dream fantasy world. So we have all of these different creatures that are depicted throughout. You might call them aliens, you might call them fae, I'm not really sure, but that's okay. The Queen of Cups, she doesn't need to know exactly. She can engage with these sort of images and have no issue with being around things she doesn't fully understand. She's okay sitting in the midst of this sort of chaos, but yet knowing that through time and through patience, she can go with the flow, and she'll be eventually able to discern the messages that she needs. So Dream Enchantress represents that intuitive flow, the willingness to sit through difficult images and just hard to interpret images for the Queen of Cups. All right, also for the Queen of Cups, I think that we have the caring counselor. You know, she's oftentimes depicted as the mother figure, the ultimate mother figure. And I think this deck, which this is the Tarot of Light, depicts that other side of her. So internally, she's lost within the intuition, but externally, she is nurturing and she is caring, and she's trying to support everyone else's emotional needs. And so Tarot of Light, what it does is it really brings about some of the lighter aspects of the card. They still have, it still holds space for the negative emotions, but what I can say for the Queen of Cups is that she's deeply perceptive. And so she's someone that I think can see a negative situation, and she can find the bright spots within it and hold your hand and support you through them. Now, this isn't to say that she would gloss over things, but she wouldn't be like the Queen of Swords, which would just tell you everything brutally honestly. I think that she is interested in caring for your emotional needs, and so she's able to hold that space for you, but also provide that comfort and that advice that can help you glean something positive from the situation. I also like these simple colors because I think the way that the Queen of Cups loves is one that is just pure brightness. I feel like if you interact with someone who is a Queen of Cups, you know, you're drawn by her mysticism, her ability to see beyond the surface, but you also are just, you fall in love with the warmth that she exudes. And so this is my second Queen of Cups deck. That's going to be Tarot of Light. All right, and next is going to be King of Cups. Now, I will say that this was the absolute hardest one for me to do. I see the King of Cups, even though I am like very feminine in nature, I see the King of Cups to be my signifier. And so it was very important that I picked a deck that seemed to represent that, but this is the one that I had the hardest time with. I think I got there at the end. But I think, you know, when you're representing a part of yourself too, you want it to be right. So this is the advice if you pull the King of Cups. Nurture, guide, and support others. Act socially responsible. Let yourself be touched and moved, soulfully express your sentiments and feelings, listen to others with sympathy and understanding, and use intuition in decision making. So the last two parts are the parts that I really hit off of. Listen to others with sympathy and understanding. The King of Cups is someone that makes an excellent diplomat because he makes you feel like you are center stage, that your emotions are going to be catered to, and he's going to be able to essentially work a room by making sure everyone's emotional needs are met. But by working a moon, it really is decision focused. So we're not just trying to manipulate people's emotions for no reason. There's a purpose behind it. And usually that purpose is for essentially the greater good or for a larger cause. So I went ahead for this deck and I picked Naturescapes. So even though I think, it does depict nature, water's part of nature, this is on the surface like an earth-based deck, I would say. It still gives me a lot of water energy. So in terms of listening, the King of Cups is known as an excellent listener. And I think that when you take all of these different geographic regions and you display them in one deck, it shows the power that the King of Cups has to be able to put together different personalities in a way that is successful and fruitful. So though, nature is all a part of one system, it has all of its parts. This isn't a deck just about water or about stone or about trees. It equally shows everyone's point of view. And you feel like every point of view is represented clearly because every part of the ecosystem is represented essentially equally. So there's that sense of validation, and I think the King of Cups' greatest gift is building that community and making sure that everyone feels like they have that role. So it fits within that. Similarly but different, I do feel like this deck is a great listener. I think sometimes we have decks that we read and they're like chatterbox decks, right? And they talk your ears off. There's just so much information they want to give you. And then there are decks that we get that we sink into. And we feel like, in a sense, there's a whole conversation that's happening between us. So that's my way of deck personifying, but I think this deck is a great listener because there aren't any people, so essentially it holds space for you. And it's willing to essentially hold your hand and listen as you're going through some deeper things. All right, well, this was the hardest one that I've done so far. I think, when you closely associate yourself with a particular element, which I do because I am a Cancer, I associate myself a lot with water. It's almost as if you take for granted that that's just how things are, right? So I've spent a lot of time thinking about swords because that's further away from who I am. But when it comes to water, this was a trickier element to pin down. So I thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate y'all. And next in this series is going to be the wand suit, and I'm going to do that for Leo season. So expect another video in this series next month with the wands, and then we'll close out the series. So I really appreciate y'all, and once again, if you want to participate, please feel free to use the hashtag that I have listed in the title. I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions, and if you would agree with the choices that I've made. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great day.